Today we're going to do carrots. Carrots are very easy to do. You could take a scrubber and you can scrub the carrot, or you could peel it. I like to peel it because I like to get every trace of the mud out of the garden. And because we do a lot of organic composting, the thought of like sheep poop or something in the soil on my carrot doesn't thrill me. So I like to clean my carrots with a carrot potato whatever scraper. And so I just thought I'd do a quick video for my friend who asked me to show her how to can. I heard a rumor that the price of vegetables are going to go up by 30% this winter, or all produce actually. So if you've never canned before, this is a good year to start. And then I am going to slice or dice them. Now you can slice them in long thin strips, like you would if you were going to stir fry them, or you can cut them in little circles, or you can put them through a food processor that slices them in like rippled potato chip type pattern. While I'm doing the carrots, I decided I might as well peel the beets too. Now a lot of people don't peel their beets. They wash them and boil them in their skin, and then when they're hot they try to handle them and peel them. The reason I don't peel mine, or I do peel mine, is because I want a clean beet to put in the water when I'm slightly boiling the beets. Now with the beets I'm going to do both canned beets, and that's just plain beets in water, and I'm going to do some pickled beets. So while I was doing carrots and making a pile of compost here, I thought I might as well peel beets. Now once I've boiled the beets for a little while, and I don't boil them very long because I don't want mushy beets, either pickled or canned. The reason I boil them in peeled and boiled is because I use the water that I boil them in as part of my brine, because so much of the color and the nutrition and flavor come out of the beet while you're boiling it, whether the skins are on or not. So I peel them and then I boil them, and then I peel them and slice them and boil them, and then I use that same beautiful deep purple water to make up the brine for the pickle juice or for canning them. So I have nice deep colored beets. People always ask me, why do you can instead of freezing? Well, for two reasons. One, that's what the pioneers did, and it saves electricity to have them sitting on a jar on the shelf ready to go, and you don't get frostbite on them. And also, I've had my freezer go up in a storm, and I've lost a whole year's supply of produce. And they say, well, your house insurance will cover it. Well, not when you have $2,000 deductible, it won't. And besides, if it did, you're going to get store-bought with chemicals, and who knows where that produce was grown and what was in the soil when they grew it. So if I can it, my beets and my pickles and my corn and my beans, although I do freeze my berries and some of my beans, but I can as much of it as I can so that it's there ready to go, and it's not costing me anything to have it sit on a shelf. And even though it's a little more handling and time in the fall, it's certainly worth it in the winter. Okay, now we're going to show different ways to cut the carrots. The really big carrots that are overgrown or odd-shaped, that won't fit in a jar very well or would fill up a jar, we clean the tops and bottoms off after we slice or cut them, and then we throw them in here and we slice them like a crinkle cut. So I'm just going to get a pan here. I'll show you how that works. So these are really nice to serve on the side of a roast beef or mashed potatoes or chicken even. So you crinkle cut them like this, or you can pickle them when they're like this, or you can just cook them, barely cook them, put them on the side almost like a salad. And so I like the crinkle cuts for those kinds of dishes that I serve. As you know, I love to cook, and presentation is important. So that's what you do with the really big fat ones. You slice them like that into a dish. The little ones, you see, it's in a smaller jar here. These little guys here, these little baby carrots, I like to put them in the jar whole. So again, they're also good around pot roast, or if you're going to pickle them or cream them or do whatever. These are the little wee tiny ones that we pulled out early. Just cut the little tail off and the little bottom off. And they're the whole carrot kind of thing, short of being cleaned a little bit. And we can fill a jar nicely and quickly with them without using the slicer dicer gadget. There we go. Okay, so jar 2 has the little whole carrots, like the baby carrot size like you buy in a... Okay, the fourth way to do the carrot is the way my mother did it. And this is just to take carrots and slice them in little circles. Nice. And this is really good for when you're making soups and stews. You'll see when you buy homemade or store-bought soup, you'll find little rings of carrots in them quite often. And you can slice 2 or 3 carrots at a time when you're doing little circles, but be careful for the fingers. Soup and stews, and those are the little circles. And they're great. For that small, you can cut them even smaller if you like, but I don't cut them smaller. I like them that size. So I take mid-sized carrots again for those, and I can chop up 2 at a time, 4 at a time if they're long and thin. And just try to watch for your finger. And if I slice my beets the same as I slice my carrots, when I'm serving them, I can serve them beside each other, and it makes a nice, colorful presentation. Okay, now for the beets, what I'm doing is I'm going to pickle the whole beets, the smaller beets that are whole, and they're eventually going to go in these jars or these handles because I'm running short of jars, and when you pickle something, you don't need to reprocess it. So I'm running short of my pint-sized jars. So the little whole ones are going to be pickled. I just cut the tails off, and I've already peeled them, and I'm going to cook them in the same water that I'm going to actually add the vinegar and spices to pickle them, so that I can keep that healthy beet broth as part of the end product, and the color. I don't want to lose that color, that nice rich purple color. This is a divided pot, so I can cook these on the barbecue, but it saves me hydro or gas. And so I'm going to put water on both sides, and on this side is going to be the round little ones for pickling, and this side is going to be the sliced ones that I use as a vegetable, and I'll serve them at the same time I do the sliced carrots, which will give me a really nice display on my plate beside my roasted chicken or my mashed potatoes. And so, just to give you an idea how I do the beets, these are just going to be canned, not pickled, these ones. With the carrots, I put them through the slicer, and I get that nice rippled potato chip kind of a look. And I'm not going to cook these very long. I'm going to cook them until they're just barely tender. Because these ones that are going to be canned have to be reprocessed. And I don't want them mushy in the jar. I don't want a mushy presentation on my table. Just cooked enough to get the fork in. Melt the butter. Okay? So now you see I have the pickles, or the beets boiled. And I'm going to go ahead now and put the beet broth that I actually cooked the beets in. Nice and dark and rich and full of vitamins. I'm going to pour that over the beets after I put them in the jar. There I go. Within a 1/4 of an inch. And then you just slide something down the side of it. And I use one of my shish kebab, or whatever you call these things, sticks. And I just slide it down the side just to make sure there's no air bubbles. And then the water level drops a bit, and the beet juice level drops a bit. A little bit more to bring it up to that 1/4 inch from the top. And I do that same on the next jar. And then I'm going to add 1/2 spoon of pickling salt, which is the coarse large granule salt, to the tops of these and the carrots. The carrots, it's just going to get plain boiling water poured over them. And then the pickling salt. And then I always put a little dash of lemon, because it doesn't require it in the recipe, but lemon is citric acid, and the citric acid helps keep them firm and hold their color. To fight the chances of you getting some type of a mold or something that would cause your canning to go bad on the top. And I put those right on the top, the salt and the lemon. Now the beets that are going to be pickled, I'm going to add to the rest of this brine. I'm going to add some vinegar, some cloves, and some sugar. You know, I'll give you the recipe. But anyways, I'll boil that again and pour it over this really piping hot shortly. And then it will be sealed with the canning lid, same as I did with the salsa. And you heat the canning lid in boiling water. That helps the rubber to soften so it seals better on the jar. So after you get these filled, you clean this off with boiling water and a rag to make sure there's no food debris on it, nothing spilled, no salt granules, no beet pieces. And then you have all your ingredients in it, and you put your hot seals on it. And anything that's pickled you can put right on the shelf. You don't have to reprocess it. Anything that's canned, like these are being canned right now, they're going to go into a hot water bath. Okay, and I'll get back to you and show you how to do that. Okay, now I'm doing the brine for the pickled beets. I have 2 cups of beet juice in here from the pickles I boiled. And now I'm adding 2 cups of vinegar, white vinegar. One. And then I'm going to add a cup of granulated sugar, and okay, my camera went off and you didn't see it, but I added a cup of granulated sugar and a teaspoon of table salt. And I like to put cloves in with my pickled beets as well, so I'll throw a couple of cloves in the jar and then heat the brine, pour over it, and when it's boiled, pour over it and seal it right away. Okay? And then I'll get back to you with carrots. And now I have to pour the boiling water on the carrots. I've already poured it on the beets, and it was beet brine that I poured. And I'm splattering all over my kitchen. I say if I ever built my own house, I would have a wood stove in my kitchen as well as the gas or electric, and I would have ceramic floors with a drain in the floor because I do a lot of cooking and canning and I get a lot of spills. Okay, after you add the boiling water, you're going to add about a half teaspoon, because this is only a pint and not a quart, of canning salt. That's coarse pickling salt. And then I like to put a little squirt of lemon on each one. It makes the vegetables or fruit or whatever you're canning nice and firm, and they hold their color. And it also secures the top of the jar next to the lid, that you're not going to get any bacteria turning into something unfriendly and causing illness in you. So then I go ahead and I squirt my lemon. This is a fresh lemon. You could buy real lemon in a jar or a generic version of it. They're all filled with hot water. I'm going to go ahead and get the sterilized lids and put them on them, and then I'm going to bring them over and put them in the processor. Now make sure that you poke down the side. I mentioned that before with the beets, to make sure you get all the air bubbles out. And then you take your cloth and you wipe around the rim of each jar before you put the seal on it. And then you secure the ring. And you go ahead and you do that to every one of the jars. These have been boiled, so I need this, well, they've been soaked in boiling water, so I'm using this thing here so I don't burn my hands again today. Now this is a tabletop oven. It goes up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit or 240 Celsius. And I fill it with water halfway up to the jars, and I put the jars in the boiling water. It's already boiling. It's very important, it's already boiling. And then I cover it with an extra blanket to block the vent holes on top, and I leave that for 45 minutes. 35 minutes if you're in a pressure canner, 30 minutes for pints if you're in a pressure canner, 45 if you're in a steam canner at 500 degrees. Probably don't need that long. I've always done it this way. I've only used a pressure canner occasionally. Didn't care for them. I had a hard time controlling the pressure. Had jars break. So I do this, this is just a cheap Hamilton Beach one, but it does the trick. And I like because it holds a dozen jars, both the large jars and the small jars, so it makes the work go so much faster. And when this is done, the 45 minutes, I take it out and I put them on the shelf. Thanks for joining me. Happy canning.